Beraishis, we go back to day one. Day one, the Ribono Shel Olam, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or, God said, let there be light, and there was light. And then God separated between the light and the darkness. And Pasuk K, Vayikra Elokim L'Or Yom, God called the light, the time, the period of time during which there'll be light is going to be called Yom, daylight. V'lachoshech, and the period of time that there'll be darkness, Kara Laila. God called it Laila, night. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Voker, it was night, it was day, Yom Echad, one day. Now, as we mentioned when we learned the first day, Yom in this pasuk, the word Yom is used in two different contexts. Yom means daylight hours, and Yom also means a day. Daylight hours means the approximate 12 hours of daylight, and a day is 24 hours, and that 24-hour day includes the approximate 12 hours of nighttime. So if we read the pasuk again, Vayikra Elokim L'Or Yom, God called the light, the 12 hours of light, Yom, daylight. V'lachoshech, and when it's dark, God called it Laila. Vayehi Erev, it was night. Vayehi Voker, it was day. Yom Echad, a 24-hour day. That was the first day. So the first day already had the concept, it had a physical light, and there was already the concept of a lack of light, which means darkness. And there was already a concept of time, that there's going to be a certain amount of light during a day and a certain amount of darkness during a day. And we learned the Ramban, Nachmanides, that as soon as there's anything that's created, as once matter comes into being, there has to be time. The physics scientists who understand this, they understand it, but they don't attribute it necessarily to the Torah. The Ramban says that as soon as God created the first Hiyuli, right, the Hiyuli particle that we talked about, there had to be time. Anything that's in the physical realm is subject to time. So by the time the first day is over, we have light, darkness, and we have time. The world is going to be running on 24 hours, day and night. Okay, that's day one. We have light. Now let's go to day 4, which is where we're up to. Parak Aleph, Pasuk Yudalet. Vayomer Elokim Yehi Ma'oros Birki Hashamayim. God said, let there be ma'orot, let there be it doesn't mean light, it means let there be a creation that gives off light. We're talking here about the sun and the moon. Let there be light-giving objects in the sky, Birkia Shamayim, in the Rakia, the firmament of heaven. Let there be 2 objects that give off light, me'orot, they give off light. Lahavdil bein hayom uvein halayla, to separate between day and night. Okay, I'm going to stop here in the middle of the pasuk. And we have the famous kasha that we used to, if we remember, we would ask in first grade. What exactly has been created here on the 4th day? On the first day, God created light, and the light was there for 12 hours approximately. And the light was removed and there was darkness. And God called the light time of the day Yom. He called the dark part of the day Laila. Done. What happened on the 4th day? What's the big chiddush of the 4th day? So the way we understand the psukim is that there was light in the universe, and when the light was removed, there was darkness. But there was no sun or moon. God on the 4th day decided to inject the light that would light up the universe into an object, which we call the sun. And God decided to create another object that would give off light, which is called the moon, and that would be used at night. So while on the first day there is light in the world, there is no sun or moon. And the Ribono Shel Olam on day four decides that we're not just going to have light. The light is going to be in what we can call a flashlight. It's just not going to be light. We're going to take the light and put it into a flashlight, which we call the sun. And during nighttime, we're going to put it into a flashlight called the moon. Why didn't God do that all on day one? Why didn't he just say, let there be a sun for the daytime, let there be a moon for the nighttime, and God would have finished the work with the light? Okay. We're going to leave that question for now. We're going to move on to read the Psukim and see something very interesting that's Nogea Purim in these Psukim. So again, Pasuk Yudal, Vayomer Elokim, Yehi Ma'oros Birkei Hashamayim. God said, let there be objects that give off light in the heaven. Lahavdil bein hayom uvein halayla. And these two objects, two of them, will separate between the day and the night. And here the difficulty just jumps off the page. I just read the first day of creation, and it says, Vayavdel Elokim bein ha'or bein ha'choshen. God separated between the light and the darkness. Now I go to day 4, and on day 4 it says, God says, let there be two objects that give off light, lahavdil bein hayom uvein halayla, to separate between day and night. The separation between day and night already occurred on day 1. Okay. V'hayu la'osos, and here we need to read it with Rashi. What's the purpose of these objects in the sky? V'hayu la'osos, it's going to be signs. K'sheha'ma'oros lokin, simin rahu la'olam, shenema me'oso sh'ashamayim al techasu. V'asoschem etzon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ein atem tzrichem lidog min ha'puranos. The sun and the moon are signs in heaven. What are the signs in heaven? There are times where we have an eclipse. An eclipse means you can't see the sun. Sometimes you can't see the moon, eclipse of the moon. These, when God removes the ability of a human being to see the sun or to see the moon, what we would call an eclipse, that is a sign that it's not the best of signs for the world. Everybody gets excited in an eclipse. Everybody waits 30 years, 50 years. There's the special eclipse, takes 200 years. We're not going to go into exactly what the eclipse is. That's different planets get into the way of the sun, and different planets get in the way of the moon, or the moon gets in the way of the sun gets in the way of the moon. But Rashi says, Kshema oros lokin, when the sun and the moon suffer, meaning they can't give off their light, simin rahu lolo, it's a bad sign for the world. It should be zayichet only good signs. But the pasuk now says, the first thing, the Chafetz Chaim comments about this. There's a very interesting order here. If we were writing the Psukim, we would have said, and I'm going to put a sun and the moon in the sky so that the sun gives light during the day and the moon gives light at night. Those are the major purposes we understand the sun and the moon are there for. Yet the Ribono Shel Olam, when he writes it, he's giving you a list of why there's a sun and the moon in the sky. He says, V'hoyu lo'osos. The very first thing he says is the sun and the moon will be signs for mankind about whether things are going well or things are not going well. Ulamoadim, and they will be able, through the sun and the moon, particularly the moon, you will be able to set Yontif. Rashi. Ulamoadim, Al Shem Ha'asid. This pasuk is talking about the future. There's no Yontif yet in the Torah. What Yontif? There's no Bnei Yisrael. The Ribono Shel Olam is already creating a sun and a moon so that the Jewish people, when they come around later in history, and the Ribono Shel Olam, excuse me, when the Jewish people come around later in history, and they're in Mitzrayim, and God tells Moshe, Chodesh Hazeh Lachem, that the Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar, and through the lunar calendar we set our Yomim Tovim up. So that's the second purpose of the sun and the moon in the sky. We still don't have the purpose of light during the day and light during the night. The second purpose of creating a sun and a moon is so that Jewish people will be able to have a lunar calendar and set the Yomim Tovim. Rashi says, "Ulamayadim al shem ha'asid." The second reason for the sun and the moon is for the future. Sha'asidim Yisrael etztavos al hamoyados. In the future, the Jewish people will be commanded to keep certain Yomim Tovim. Ve'im nimnin l'molad halavana. And the way the Jewish people will calculate Yomim Tovim is through the new moon. It's a lunar calendar. I'm just going to finish the Rashi on this pasuk, and we'll come back to this. The third reason for why there's a sun and the moon in the sky, uliyamim, in order to calculate days, Rashi, shimush hachama chatziyoyim v'shimush halavana chetziyo hareyom shalom. Through the sun and the moon, you're going to be able to calculate a 24-hour day. Part of the day will be daylight, and part of the day will be night. Third reason for the sun and the moon in the sky. Fourth reasons, Vishanim, Rashi says, L'sov shin samachay yomim u'avir yom, yigmu mahalcham b'yud zayin mazos hameshosim oisav v'hi shana. The sun and the moon, through their orbits, take 365 and a quarter days, which is the solar calendar, and every 365 and a quarter days, it will create a new year. And so the sun and the moon have a purpose in creating a year. So far we have 4 reasons for the creation of the sun and the moon. They will be signs when there is an eclipse. The moon will be used when Jews have to set their Yomim Tovim. And they're going to be used in order to set daytime and nighttime. And they're going to be used when you have to set a year based upon 365 and a quarter days. Nothing yet about basic. The sun lights up the day and the moon lights up the night. That's the fifth reason. And these two objects will give off light in heaven, to provide light to the earth, so that during the day there's light through the sun, during the night there's light through the moon. And it was so. So what we consider the first most important purpose of the sun and the moon, which is to give us light on earth, is the fifth reason for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are 4 reasons before that. Let's go back to reason number 2, Ulamo Adam. The sun and the moon are going to help the Jewish people be able to set their Yomim Tovim. Now, the sun and the moon both help. We always think about the fact that we have a lunar calendar, which we do. We calculate our year based on the moon, which is 354 days. But we also need to have a sun, even when we calculate our years. That's why we have something called an Ibriyor. Sometimes we have 13 months. That's a complicated cheshbon. We have 13 months. We catch up because we have only a Jewish month only has 29 or 30 days. The solar calendar has 30, 31 days. So the solar calendar and the lunar calendar are running on 2 different tracks. And eventually the lunar calendar has to be made consistent with the lunar calendar, the moon, has to be made consistent with the solar calendar, so that our Yomim Tovim come out in the right season. Pesach has to be in the Chodesh Ha'aviv, when things are blossoming. And if we don't have an Ibiyar, we don't have an Adar base every couple of years, we're going to end up having Pesach in the middle of the winter as the calendar keeps on going. I'll give you an example of that in a moment. In order to keep Shavuos as the Chag HaKotzir, when people are reaping, they're cutting. In order to keep Sukkot, the Chag HaOsif, at the beginning of the rainy season, the rainy season is not dependent on the moon. The rainy season is dependent on the sun. The blossoming season is not dependent on the moon, it's dependent on the sun. So we have to have our Yomim Tovim consistent with the agricultural system. So we have every few years an Adar base, and we catch up so that basically the Yomim Tovim, sometimes we have an early Pesach, we call it, sometimes we have a late Pesach, but we don't have a Pesach in the middle of September. Now, if you don't have the Chochmas Ha'ibur, if you don't have this tremendous wisdom, and it was a tremendous wisdom, one of the things that the Rebbeinu Shalom said we're not to share, it's a secret. The Gemara in Ksuba says this is one of the secrets that HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught Moshe, and Moshe taught Yoshua, etc. It's one of the secrets we know about the Ibur, is the tremendous chachma of how to keep the sun, our lunar calendar, on track and in pattern with the solar calendar. When to do it, how to do it. These are very, very complicated sugyas in Masechta Sanhedrin. The Rambam has a whole set of halachas about how to deal with it, and it deals with a tremendous amount of astronomy. What's the example? The Mashah talks about this in Sanhedrin. The Muslims do not have an Ibriyar. The Muslims use a lunar calendar as Jewish people do. But they don't have an Ibriyar ever. They never take their lunar calendar and try to make it consistent with the solar calendar, as we do. Every couple of years we have an Ibriyar. They don't have such a thing. So therefore, if you've been in Eretz Yisrael long enough, you know that Ramadan sometimes is in January, Ramadan sometimes is in April, Ramadan sometimes in July, Ramadan sometimes is in October. It goes round and round because they do not have a system by which the lunar calendar becomes consistent with the solar calendar. So therefore, the Ramadan holiday can fluctuate throughout the calendar. Just keep on using the lunar calendar over and over and over. And eventually, because the lunar calendar is 354 days and the solar calendar is 365 days, so you're missing 11 days in your lunar calendar. And after a couple of years go by, you're missing 44 days, and you're missing 66 days, you're missing 88 days. And therefore, Ramadan keeps on moving from January to February to March to April to May to June to July, etc. The Rebbeinu Shalom taught Moshe Rabbeinu that our Yomim Tovim are based on agricultural seasons, which is a chiddush in itself. The Maharal talks about that. But we need to have Pesach in Chodesh HaOviv. Hayom atem yotzim b'Chodesh HaOviv, Hashem said. Today you will leave Mitzrayim, and I want you to remember it b'Chodesh HaOviv. So to make sure that Pesach is in the Chodesh HaAviv, we have something called the Ibriyar. This is part of the whole idea of Jewish people managing the lunar calendar. Managing the lunar calendar has two functions. A, Rosh Chodesh, and two, managing the leap year. So we just spoke about the leap year. Every few years we add an Adar Beis, but every year and every month when the Beis Hamikdash stood, and for a period after the Beis Hamikdash, but that no longer that process no longer exists. There was a process of Kiddush HaChodesh. Two witnesses came to Beis Din in Yerushalayim, and they testified that they saw the new moon the night before. And Beis Din said, if Beis Din accepted the witnesses, Beis Din said, okay, today is Rosh Chodesh. Sometimes the witnesses came and they said, we saw the new moon last night. and yesterday may have been the 29th day, which means that today is Rosh Chodesh. Last night, yesterday was the 29th day. Last night they saw the moon. Today they come into Beis Din, and Beis Din says, yes, today's Rosh Chodesh. That means the last month was only 29 days, and today is the first day of the new month. That's how you would end up with a 29-day lunar month. It may be that the witnesses don't come in until a day later, or no witnesses come, in which case the month would be 30 days, and then you would have Rosh Chodesh. How did we get to 2 days Rosh Chodesh? Complicated sugya in itself. But a Jewish month has either 29 days or 30 days, and whether it has 29 days or 30 days is going to be decided by the Beis Din in Yerushalayim. Now that means that in the hands of Beis Din is the power to decide when Yontif is. If Beis Din declares Rosh Chodesh, if Beis Din says that the last month is 29 days, and today there's no third, make believe yesterday was the 29th day of Adar, and today Beis Din says we heard the witnesses, we accept the witnesses, last night was the new moon, today is the first day of Nisan, then Pesach is going to be 15 days from today. If Beis Din says we don't accept these witnesses, we don't trust them, and therefore today is the 30th day of Adar, tomorrow will be Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That means Pesach is going to be 2 weeks, 15 days from tomorrow. So it's in the hands of Beis Din to decide when Pesach is going to be. Beis Din decides when Pesach is going to be, a day earlier or a day later, which is an unbelievable responsibility because you may end up eating chametz on Pesach. But this power was given to Beis Din. You decide which witnesses you will trust, and based on that, you will have Pesach. And eventually, based on that, you will calculate Shavuos. And based on that, you will calculate Sukkot. The tricky problem, as we discussed previously, is Rosh Hashanah, because a Yontif like Pesach comes on the 15th day of the month. So if Beis Din decides today is Rosh Chodesh or tomorrow is Rosh Chodesh, there was some time, there was 2 weeks to get the message out when Pesach is going to start. Sukkot, there's 15 days. Sukkot on the 15th day of Tishrei, there's time to let people know when Sukkot starts. To a certain extent, even Yom Kippur, it's the 10th day in the month. Beis Din was able to get out a message. This is when Yom Kippur is. Even Shavuos, which is the 6th day of Sivan. Basically, you were able to figure out when it was because you were counting Sfira from Pesach. And if you basically knew when Pesach was, because Pesach was 15 days in a month and the message got out, you knew when Pesach was, you counted the 49 days, the 50th day was Shavuos. The big problem was Rosh Hashanah. Every year, Rosh Hashanah presented a problem because Rosh Hashanah is the first day of Tishrei. So 2 witnesses walk into Beis Din. They say, we saw the new moon last night. And Beis Din says, we believe you. And today is Rosh Chodesh. And yesterday was the last day of Elul. Today is the first day of Tishrei. As soon as Beis Din says today is the first day of Tishrei, it's not just the first day of Tishrei, it's Rosh Hashanah. People woke up in the morning. They went to work. They put on their tefillin, they daven the regular Shemona Esrei of a weekday, and the witnesses show up, and it could be the witnesses show up 12:01 in the afternoon, and Beis Din hears them. Beis Din says, yes, these are trustworthy witnesses. Last night was the new moon. Elul ended yesterday. Today is the first day of Tishrei. Boom! It's now Rosh Hashanah. People are at work. Nobody heard Shofar. The karbanos that they brought earlier in the day in the Beis Hamikdash were the karbanos for a weekday. They didn't bring Rosh Hashanah karbanos. This led to many problems, and eventually we end up, at the end of a long process, we end up with 2 days Rosh Hashanah, even in Eretz Yisrael. Okay. So the idea of Yomim Tovim, the pasuk says that the Rebbeinu Shalom put up a sun and a moon. The second reason is L'mo'adim. for purposes of Jews to be able to establish the Yom Tovim. We now know what that means. Jewish people have in their hands the power to control Yontif. What day will Yontif be is in the hands of Beis Din, it's in the hands of the Jewish people. We'll talk next week, B'li Neder, about this whole idea that the Rebbeinu Shalom is creating things during the 6 days of creation, which one of the purposes is going to be for 2,448 years from now. The Jews left Mitzrayim in 2448, and here we're in year 0. So one of the reasons that God's creating a sun and a moon is so that 2,448 years later, the Jews will get the mitzvah of Kiddush HaChodesh. And this is consistent with what we've been saying many times, that during the Sheshes Yimei Beraishis, everything was created that went into reality immediately, and certain things were created only in potential so that they can be used later, because as Shlomo HaMelech tells us, Ein Chodesh Tachas Hashemesh, nothing new is created. Everything was created and is here, or is here in potential. Ramchal talked about that as well in the Das Tavunos that we learned. So here we have a case where God is giving us a reason. The sun and the moon, it's going to be there because 2,448 years from now, the Jewish people will use them to set the Yom Tov. There's a piece of Sfas Emes about Purim and about the Jewish people setting the months. Now we know that Haman was Hipul Pur Hu Hagoyro. He drew lots. He cast lots to figure out what day he's going to exterminate Chas v'Shalom the Jewish people. We talked about yesterday and last week the system that the Das Tavunos talks about, the system of the gears, the system of the kononios. And in that gears, there are good gears, there are bad gears, and everybody, lo aleinu, ein tzaddik b'at shi'asta v'layech, the people do averas, they by mistake, Hashem intentionally push the bad gear, but then there's the good gear next to it where you can do tshuva. The problem is removing the bad gear and making a system out of the bad gear, a system out of evil, systematic evil. The Nazis, the final solution, systematic evil. You don't just kill, you keep records and details. Everything is done at a certain amount per day. This is systematic evil. That's why, since the world was created with this system, and that's how God wants the world to operate with this system for the 5 reasons we learned yesterday in Rav Friedlander's footnote in the Das Tavunos. That's how God created the world with this system for 5 reasons. Amalek Yamach Shemam wants to destroy the system by removing the evil gear and making it a system in and of itself. So they basically want to destroy God's world. So therefore God says to them, I will destroy and annihilate you. So we know that Haman was trying to play around with time. He's going to cast lots, and the lots will tell him when to Chas v'Shalom exterminate the Jewish people. And if you think about it, the person is throwing lots. It's like a game. It's a game to him. He's flipping lots. He's casting lots. And the answer that he's looking for is when to kill hundreds of thousands of people. And it's going to be done through a game. To him, the whole thing is a game. Evil is a systematic game to this evil person, Yamach Shemon. So the Medrash says, Isa b'Medrash, and it's interesting just to know, think about that, we call the Yontif Purim. There are a lot of different names we can give the Yontif, but the whole name of the Yontif is Purim. What does the word Purim mean? The Megillah says, Hipil Pur Hu Hagorol. The word Pur in Persia means a lottery. Purim means it's the holiday of the lottery. That's what the Yontif is. Chazal, when the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah set up this wonderful day, They called it Purim. They want people to remember that the day is set into the idea of lottery, Purim. So the Sfas says, Isa b'medrash, ki hayamapul golrolois al yemei hashavua, v'lo olulo v'hipol ala chadoshim. The first attempt that Haman made when he cast the lots was he put seven pieces of paper, however he did it, paper, parchment, whatever he did, rocks, whatever he did. He wrote the days of the week on 7 rocks or 7 pieces of parchment. And that's how he wanted to do it. I'm going to kill them all on a Sunday. I'm going to kill them all on a Wednesday. I'm going to kill them all on a Thursday, Chas v'sholom. And he started the process of lots with days of the week. That's what the Medrash says. And it didn't work. I don't know exactly there are different pshatim in the Medrash. I don't know exactly what it means, but it didn't work. Either he took the rocks or the parchment out and the parchment went blank. Whatever it means, he tried to throw the lots and end up with a day of the week, Tuesday, Wednesday. It didn't work. He couldn't get the lottery to work for the day of the week. V'hipul ala chadoshim. Once he realized that it's not working on the days of the week, and then he put months in there. He put 12 pieces of cloth or 12 rocks, and he wrote on the rocks numbers. He wrote the names of the months or the numbers of the months, and he went to select what month should I kill him. It's not working what day. Let's try the next lottery. What month? So Sfas Emes, and eventually the month hits Adar, and the day hits 13. V'kasha, the Sfas Emes asks, me'achash lo ola al hayomim, mato elis begorol chadoshim, she'al korchav tzorach lipol biyom mimei hashavua. Once Haman realized that the Rabbonu Shalom is not allowing the lottery to work for a day of the week, he put 7 days into the hat, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. Every time he puts his hand in the hat, he pulls it out, and it doesn't say anything on it. He tries again, it doesn't say anything on it. So he realizes this is not going to work. The Rabbanu Shalom is not going to let him do it. So what does he do? He puts now the rocks or the parchment into the hat, and he has 12 rocks or 12 pieces of parchment. And now he thinks it's going to work, and in fact it works. He gets a month, Adar, and he gets a day of the month, 13. As Sfas Emes asks, what's going on? If the Rabbanu Shalom didn't let it work for a day of the week, why would it work for the 13th day of Adar? The 13th day of Adar in that year of the miracle had to be a day of the week, right? There's a day of the week, a month, and a day of the month. Every day of a month is either a Monday, Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Shabbos. Every day of the month has to be a day of the week. So if the Rabbanu Shalom already showed Haman that you're not going to get this done because there's no day of the week, I'll let you do it, and therefore your lottery will fail when you try to pick a day of the week. How is he successful? By picking out a month and a day of the month, and the day of the month has to be a day of the week, and the day of the week won't work. The Sfas Emes says, Hein Beis Misparim. There are 2 important numbers, ways to calculate time. Mispar Yemei HaShabbos Nitlim B'Shabbos. Days of the week are always connected to Shabbos Kodesh. We say the Shir Shel Yom after davening. We say Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos Kodesh. Hayom Yom. Today we said Hayom Yom Sheni B'Shabbos Kodesh. We're always counting days of the week and connecting it to Shabbos. In fact, the Ramban Nachmanides in the Torah says that when we do this, we Makayim, we observe a biblical commandment. It says Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadsho. You should remember the day of Shabbos to sanctify it. And every time we say today is day 1 toward Shabbos, Hayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos Kodesh, Hayom Yom Sheni B'Shabbos Kodesh, we are counting toward Shabbos. Today is day 1 to the upcoming Shabbos. Oh, I just remembered Shabbos Kodesh. Ayom Yom Rishon B'Shabbos Kodesh. I fulfilled the biblical mitzvah of remembering Shabbos to sanctify. So Shabbos, all the days of the week, the way days of the week are, they are sanctified through the Shabbos. The Shabbos in Israel, we know, Chazal tell us that Shabbos was given to the Jews and it's not subject to change. Every 7th day of the week is Shabbos. There's no base in deciding when Shabbos is. It's every 7th day of the week. There happens to be an interesting discussion in Gemara and Shabbos. Someone's in those days, he's saying that he got lost in the desert. He doesn't obviously have a pocket calendar. He doesn't have a cell phone that has a calendar in it. And he forgets what day of the week it is. If you get lost, Loyaleno, in the desert, you can easily forget what day of the week it is. And we're assuming he's not starving to death. He has some water still, but he can't remember what day of the week it is. And therefore, he doesn't know when Shabbos is. And he doesn't want to violate Shabbos. So when do you keep Shabbos? So there's a machlokes in the Gemara about how to keep Shabbos under those circumstances. But Shabbos, one sheet in the Gemara is, as soon as he realizes he forgot when Shabbos is, he begins counting 7 days. And on the 7th day from when he realizes he doesn't know when Shabbos is, the 7th day for him becomes Shabbos. Or he keeps Shabbos that day and then counts 6 days after. So that's machlokes in the Gemara. But the point is, Shabbos is a 7. Every day of the week is counted based upon the upcoming Shabbos. And Shabbos is kviyah v'kaima. That's it. It was given by God, and it's every 7th day. Uvazeh ein shaychus l'Haman klal. Haman has no power whatsoever to interfere in the days of the week. The days of the week are sanctified because they're connected to Shabbos, and Shabbos is given directly from God, and Haman can't play around with the days of the week. So therefore, when he tried to cast lots on what day of the week I should annihilate the Jewish people, he's trying to interfere with the days of the week that are connected to Shabbos, and Shabbos is directly given from God and is absolute every 7th day, and Haman can't play around in there with all the lotteries he wants. He cannot touch the days of the week. However, HaChodesh Nimsal of Bnei Yisrael, the month, as we just learned, when will a new month begin and the old month end? That's up to the Jewish people. That's not set by God. God gave us a gift. God said, you will control the lunar calendar, and the Beis will decide what day Rosh Chodesh is, and therefore they'll decide what day Yontif is. This is a power that the Jewish people have. And we get it in Parshas Bo. Right before we left Mitzrayim, Hashem said to Moshe, HaChodesh hazeh lachem. This new month belongs to you. Making a new month belongs to the Jewish people. What does it mean that we are Makadesh Chodesh? Why is that an unbelievable power given to the Jewish people? Al Yidei Yisrael Mamshichen Hischadshus L'Hateva. This is an ongoing concept throughout the Sfas Emes and throughout many Svarim, that the Jewish people have the ability to bring a newness, a passion, a life to something that is rote. We talked about this with this past Thursday about Haman, Amalek, Asher Korcha Baderech. It says that Amalek did a Korcha Baderech. We learned the Rashi, one of the explanations of Rashi, Asher Korcha Baderech. Karcha comes from the word kar, cold. The Jewish people were in a state of passion. They were in a state of excitement. They left Mitzrayim. They're going to go to Eretz Yisrael. They were on the derech, Asher Korcha Baderech. They were on the road, the derech, to go to Eretz Yisrael, and they were excited. They were passionate. They just sang the Oz Yashir. And Amalek came and cooled them off. Take it easy. Don't get so excited. Don't get so passionate. We talked about this last Thursday. That's what Haman, Amalek want to do. They want to destroy a human being's life. Don't be passionate about anything. Don't be excited about anything. Just live day to day, road, one day after the next, one day after the next. And this is all part of creating a life of systematic evil. Have nothing refreshing in your life. Have nothing bubbling in your life. Have no excitement to learn. Have no excitement to come to Eretz Yisrael. Have no excitement to be Shemet Torah mitzvahs. And then eventually you won't do it at all, because if you're not excited about it and it's not something that you enjoy, you'll just give it up altogether. Cold. Don't do it with a warm passion, as they say in Yiddish, with a bren, with a fire. Nah, just do it. Just get it done. You have to do it. Just do it. Eventually, if that's how you live life, just to get it done. Eventually, you get bored and you don't want to get it done. It doesn't mean anything to you. So the Klal Yisrael have a power to constantly bring newness into what appears to be rote. One of the things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created in the Teva, in quote unquote nature, which we mentioned so many times, the Ramban Nachmanides at the end of Pashas Bo says a person should not believe in nature. A person that believes in nature, everything in nature is a miracle. It's just a recurring miracle. The sunrise, the sun sets, Mother Nature. What Mother Nature? There's no Mother Nature, it's God. But since God does it every day, we get used to it. We don't appreciate it, so we don't see a miracle. But whoa, if God splits the Yam at Kriyas Yam, say, wow, I never saw such a thing. That's a miracle. But the more you see something over and over, you say, okay, Mother Nature, Chas v'Shalom. A person that believes in this idea that God's not behind everything, Ramban says, Ein lechelik b'Torahs Moshe. The Jewish people have this special power by a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that they can bring newness, excitement, refreshing exuberation into life. How do you do that? Because the Jewish people calculate time. What's time? Time is can be a person's worst enemy. Before Pesach, Blined, we'll talk about that. It can be a person's worst enemy. A person gets into the habit of time. He does the same thing every day. He gets into a schedule, and a schedule is important, but it can't become rote. A person has to have a certain flexibility. If he's in a locked schedule and that removes his excitement from doing new things, he's destroying himself. Zman, the idea of time, is the idea of Teva, is the idea of nature. We mentioned earlier in the Shir that the Ramban Nachmanides says that as soon as God created something from nothing, at the moment there was something physical in the world, time took over. You can't have something physical unless time is there and subjects this physical thing to time. So as soon as the world was created, in the very first millisecond of the Yesh Ayin, there was already a concept. There had to be a concept of time. Time is what creates rote. A person gets into a rote. I do this every single day. I do this 3 times a day. I do this 10 times a day. I do this only at night. I only do this during the day. And a person gets into a rote type of life. How do you inject passion into that life? With something called hischadshus, renewing yourself, renewing your life in such a way that you're passionate again about what you do. And this is what the moon, the Jewish calendar, does for us. Jewish calendar, every 29 or 30 days starts again. We don't have a calendar that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 29, 30, 31, 32. We don't calculate 365 days. We are very sensitive to every 29 or 30 days we have a Rosh Chodesh. And what do we look at when we see a Rosh Chodesh? A new moon. The moon gets bigger and bigger, becomes a full moon, and then it gets smaller, and then we have the newborn moon, and we look up and we see a brand new moon that's starting again its process, and again it's going to get to its full size, but it's not going to stay that way. It's going to start getting smaller, and it's going to get bigger. We see an invigorating picture in the sky of something that is able to get bigger and sometimes smaller, and it gets bigger again. We see a newness a refreshing exuberation when we are Makadish the Zman. So whereas time can create a rote in a person's life, a lack of passion, Jewish time, which is calculated by the moon, creates an excitement and gets rid of that rote. Shabbos is Shabbos. It's given by God. God is absolute, and their Shabbos is absolute every seventh day. You're not going to change that. But the moon, the Rosh Hashanah says, HaChodesh Hazelachem, this is yours. This is an opportunity for you to have a lunar calendar and to watch how not only it gets bigger and smaller, but you're going to control it. The Beis Din in Yerushalayim will declare when the new moon is and when Yontif is. This is the power I'm giving to you to be Makadesh the Chodesh. You can sanctify the moon. Makadesh Chadashim. You can renew the moon. It's through you. Renewal is a power the Jewish people are given, and that power was given to them through Kiddush HaChodesh. V'zeh hoya ikas sinas chinam harosha. Hepach mishem tzaddik shu gam kein hamshachas achis nevoim. Val shem ze nikra tzaddik chai v'rosha kamei shenifsach min shoras achayim. And this is where Haman's hate was. Haman's hate was there's a Jewish people who keep on talking to the world about refreshing, reinvigorating, a newness, a dedication, a passion. Don't live life through rote. And Haman, that's the opposite of Haman Amalek Yimach Shemam. They want to create systems. They want to create rote. They want to take away people's passion. They're destructive people. Why are people destructive? There are people, we know there are people that are partially destructive. They want to destroy communities. They want to destroy the world. Why? They're destructive by nature. There is such a thing, they're destructive by nature. And Haman and Amalek are such people. And the Jewish people are bubbly people. We are people that give off life and exuberance and passion. And that's where he wanted to fight the Jewish people. When he drew his lots and tried to get a lottery of 7 days, should I do it on a Monday or should I do it on a Wednesday? That's not going to work. You're taking on God because days of the week are connected to Shabbos, and Shabbos is an absolute 7 days given by God. We have no power over that. And he couldn't work his lottery there. But once he started dealing with months, now he realizes this is a place where I'd like to attack the Jewish people. They have so much power over the months, and particularly Adar is a Jewish month. Why? When the Jewish people have to make a leap year, what month do they add to the calendar? Adar. Why do they add Adar? Why can't you have two Shvats? If the whole purpose is to make sure that we get Pesach in the Chodesh HaAviv, we need, for example, let's say we need Pesach to be in April, okay? Because that's the Aviv for this year. We haven't had, for example, a leap year, let's say, for 3 years. Every year the lunar calendar is 354. The solar calendar is 365. Every year we lose 11 days. After 3 years, we lose 33 days, which means that every 3 years, the lunar calendar is a month behind the solar calendar, and it'll keep on going. So what do? We need to get Pesach to be in the Chodesh HaAviv. So you don't have to make 2 Adars. You can make 2 Shvats. You can make 2 Tavises. No matter which month you add to Tavis Aleph, Tavis Beis, the end result is Pesach will be in the same right time. You made Shvat Aleph, Shvat Beis. Pesach will be in the same time. That's what we do. Adar is the month that we make an Adar Beis when we have to. And the Gemara learns that out why we do it to Adar. But Adar, the Purim month, is the month where we show our tremendous power of renewness, how we take control of the lunar and solar calendar, and we're going to make an Adar Beis. It is in that month that Haman, Yamach Shemoy, cannot deal with the Jewish people. That's where he needs to annihilate them. That's the month where they bring the exuberance and the passion and the love of life. into the world. That's the month he needs to destroy them in. And so, chas v'shalom. And so the Sfas Emes says his attempt to pick a day of the week failed. Day of the week, Hayom Yom, Rishon b'Shabbos Kodesh. Days of the week are one of seven. Seven is Shabbos. Shabbos is absolute, it's God. And there he failed. But once he went to the next level, he went to months. Months is where he really wants to attack them. And he can attack them there. Because that's not a God power, that's a power that God gave us. He said, you control. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem. And not only do we have the power there, Haman sees that that's the power he needs to destroy. Because so long as Jewish people are an exuberant people, a passionate people, a dedicated people to life, not to death. We are living people. We're not dedicated to death. We're dedicated to life. We're dedicated to preserving life. We don't know about suicide bombers. There's nothing holy about a person killing himself to kill other people. We believe in people helping people to preserve life. Haman can't deal with it. That's the people he needs to destroy. The people have this power of Chodesh, and it's the Chodesh of Adar where they demonstrate their power to make a Chodesh Adar base. And so when we read in the Parsha in Beraishis that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, reason number 2 for creating the sun and the moon was L'mo'adim, I'm giving Jewish people the power over the Yom Tovim. That's a tremendous power HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us. It is such a tremendous power that a Haman Amalek Yimachshimam couldn't tolerate such a power in the world. But nevertheless, the Rebbeinu Shalom made a tremendous miracle for us that we were saved, and we continue to bring that lesson of newness, exuberance. And what is Purim? Purim is a day to enjoy life. It's an exuberant, bubbling day. Why? Because that's the festive day of Purim. What we overcame and what we defeated was the Haman Amalek, rote, unhappiness, all the things that evil brings into a person's life. And the V'nahapoichu, the reversal, the boomerang is Adarab. We're exuberant on this day. It's a lively day. And that's how we destroy Haman Amalek Yimach Shemam B'zichram. All Yidden need Yeshua Shab Yeshuas, all Yidden need Refuah Shab Refuas, all Yidden need Nechamas Shab Nechamas, all Yidden need Brach Shab Brachas. Brachas, Yeshuas, Refuas, Nechamas can only come from the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Echad Yachna Yuchad. It only comes when we do our Hishtadlus. Ve'racha B'chol Masayot Mashetasa. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, I will bless your conduct. First, we have to act, as we just gave an example, Kiddush HaChodesh. Rebbeinu Shalom gave Klal Yisrael powers, and we need to act upon those powers, and then the Rebbeinu Shalom blesses our deeds. And who, when, how the bracha Yeshua and the Chum Refuahs only come through the Echad Yachid Umiyuchad. We internalize this, we live this, we do a Gili Hayachid, as the Ramchal explained, Das Tfunas, and we give and donate that Gili Hayachid to Klal Yisrael, so we can bring the Gili Hayachid to critical mass, B'tzayin Hashem Mamish today, so that Rebbeinu Shalom can Shem Mashiach today, to finish the Gili Hayichud, to let us build the Beis HaMikdash, to bring the Machzis HaShekel, to bring Karbonis, Mamish B'tzayin Hashem today. Before Shalema, Moshe Zelig, Ben Rezel. For Shalema, Yosef Chaim Ben Shoshana Menucha. For Shalema to Shmuel David HaKoyin Ben Tikva Leah. For Shalema Nechama Bas Eta. The Sog Shachol Yisrael Imchol Chole HaKorona. For Snersha, for Sagov Hashbag Alois Mankrib and Omar Amen. Everybody take care of yourselves. Be careful where you go, when you go, how you go. Now we're coming up to the great day of Purim, the day of great exuberance, as we just spoke about. And we have to be careful where we go, how we go on the day of Purim, and being careful and making cheshbonis mitzvah. It's avodas Hashem. Last two Beis Yosef and Kosher Mishpat. Last per Hagoyin L'Choysan Mishpat. We make these cheshbonis to keep ourselves healthy. It's avodas Hashem. It's a mitzvah, so that we can have a true Purim, a true Simcha, a true Mechias Amalek with Bias Mashiach that came here remain. Tomorrow, Mi'et Hashem, the shir begins at 9:30, as we mentioned last week, instead of the Yeshaya Shir at 9:30 Tuesday, we'll be doing an Inyan of Purim at 9:30 tomorrow, which is really a continuation of the Purim subject we began last week. Everybody have a wonderful day. Sei gesund. And it's Chodesh Adar. Be exuberant, be happy, be passionate. Purim is 2 days, Yudalit and Tesvav, but there's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch. It says that if someone is taking a trip, he's taking a voyage on a ship, and he doesn't have a Megillah to take with him, so he's not going to be in a community on the 14th of Adar. He's going to be on a ship, and he has no Megillah to take with him. Today, everybody buys a Megillah, so we assume that everybody used to have a Megillah. People didn't have Megillahs. You had to have a lot of money. You had to be a wealthy person to hire a scribe to write a Megillah. A person doesn't have a Megillah, and he has to leave for whatever reason. He's going to be on a ship on the 14th of Adar. What should he do? So the halacha says we don't do this anymore today. It usually doesn't happen anyway. But you're allowed to read the Megillah without a bracha from Rosh Chodesh Adar. Before you get on the ship, borrow a Megillah, read the Megillah. You can start doing that Rosh Chodesh Adar. Why? So the halacha says, because it's a pasuk at the end of Megillah Esther. At the end of Megillah Esther, it says, "V'hachodesh asher nepach." The whole month was turned topsy-turvy. It wasn't just the day of the 14th and the 15th. It was the whole month. Right? When Haman drew lots, we just learned, what was the first lot? What month? And then he drew lots, what day of the month? So the whole Chodesh was Nepach. The whole month is a month of V'napachu. And therefore you can read the Megillah under those circumstances on the first day of Adar. So although we're a couple of days away from Purim, we're in Chodesh Adar. Exuberance, Simcha Atzuma. We're getting ready for the day of Machias Amalek. B'mheir of Yameinu Amen. Sei gesund.